Welcome to Graya Overload. I'm Anthony, and today I want to talk a little bit about the GPU landscape. With the release of the NVIDIA RTX cards, I want to do a little GPU landscape in 2018 and how it's looking. And it's not bright, especially if you're a gamer. NVIDIA released these RTX cards. They're out, and $1,200 you get the best gaming graphics card out there, and yeah, you get some new technology that we can't use yet. Now I'll touch on a little bit about the ray tracing stuff here in a bit, but the ray tracing is, out there in these new cars was a major focus. Yeah, there's more performance out of them, but the price is pretty steep on them, and that comes, I think, a lot with no competition from AMD. AMD really hasn't had a great high-end card that can just knock or at least trade blows with a top NVIDIA card in a while, and I don't think that there's going to be one this year. Maybe I could be shocked and surprised, sure. But just everything, the rumors flying around, it just seems like Navi's the next one, and I'm guessing that's going to be next year sometime for AMD's next graphics card. But with NVIDIA, they are top of the hill. They got this great RTX card, the new Turing architecture, and it's a powerful card, right? Founders Edition for the 2080 Ti, yeah, we're spending $1,200, and they have the 2080 and stuff like that. But, I'm going to focus on. I'll focus on kind of the overall stack, but the 2080 Ti is really the one for NVIDIA that's really has no competition whatsoever, right? Then you have the 2080, which is like a 1080 Ti, so it competes with each other in price, at least a little bit for technology we have today, right? RTX is a lot of, I should say, ray tracing. The ray tracing has a lot of future proof, especially if game developers are going to implement it, right? If you're going to stick with the card for 5 years, sure. I'm interested to see how this all ray tracing kind of performs overall and how it grows and how it's implemented, but I will get to that in a little bit. Another thing is the AI HPC markets. NVIDIA's crushing right now. They are doing an amazing job with those markets. I've worked a little bit with CUDA and stuff, and it's a great piece of software. NVIDIA has done a great job with the software stack and using their hardware to get some great performance out of it overall. And I'm really kind of excited to see how that market continues to grow here. But I do want to focus a little bit more on gaming in this whole thing. So let's jump into AMD. AMD did that 7nm GPU, and I know I said it'd be focusing a little bit more on gaming just like 5 seconds ago, but I wanted to touch a little bit on the 7nm GPU that AMD has announced and they kind of went through. That's supposed to be a pretty powerful one, especially for the HPC and AI. Now, the reason why I want to say that this affects gamers is that, there's a lot of money in those markets. So in that AI HPC market, machine learning, etc., NVIDIA is going after it hard and they got a lot of the market, but also AMD because there's a lot of money in those markets, right? Businesses are willing to spend a lot of money to get more performance out of doing whatever operations they're trying to do. And this is a market that AMD is going off. Hopefully they take that money and then invest it into getting better GPU architecture and technology into the hands of consumers for gaming. I'm really hoping that AMD does that. I'm really interested to see what Navi can do here once it releases, whenever it does. Hopefully it has a lot of the ray tracing stuff that NVIDIA did, and maybe even some of their more sampling stuff that is out there with their AI learning, etc. AMD, like I said, needs to pick up its gaming GPU game overall. Its competitiveness in there. They need to be coming out with a GPU architecture once a year. It needs to be high end, a full stack, low end to high end that competes with NVIDIA all the time. Hopefully, the direction of that with the new heads of the RTG group over at AMD, they can start moving that section of the company into that. I also think that they need to work on their drivers. They update drivers quite a bit, but I feel like there's room for improvement. I feel like they can, clean up the stack a little bit, get it, so it's more efficient and keeps performance over time, rather than having all the fine wine out there and having performance closer to, at the beginning, than always having to wait a long time to get all the performance out of a card. Now, you can gain performance over time. That's fine. I like that. I like long support on all products. but kind of put that forward. Keep a competitive product throughout the longevity of the card against the counterpart. I think that's very important as well. Diving into Intel here, Intel, they're talking about a GPU. I do think that they're going off the AI HPC machine learning market first, because that makes more sense. There's more money in it. Gamers aren't spending 10 grand on a graphics card. I'm sure there's some gamers out there that can. I'm not one of those. So I think that they're, maybe 2019, 2020, that's going to be a time for, NVIDIA or Intel to have that graphics card out. I don't see them really, 2019 is pushing it for me even. I think it's got to be 2020, 2021 personally. But if they do 2019, kudos to them. But 2020, I like to see that third player. I like to see more competition. I like the competitiveness of it. Maybe it gives us a different option. Maybe it puts more pressure on AMD and or NVIDIA, depending on who's the top dog at that time. Maybe they even introduce a new technology we haven't even realized we wanted yet. These are all opportunities for Intel to break into the market and break into it in a way that we want to go buy their card or have a reason to go and buy their card without straying from the regular two dogs in this market of NVIDIA and AMD. Now, one of my big questions is, are there going to be even competitive cards overall, right? They're redesigning that architecture, or maybe expanding off the architecture they currently have in their CPU side of GPU architecture. But is it going to be competitive with whatever is out at that time, right? NVIDIA is moving to 7 nanometers, and AMD is also moving to 7 nanometers. I mean, the whole NVIDIA AMD will be at 7 nanometers, right? They're just moving that direction. TSMC already has it out. Will Intel have their 10 nanometer ready, and will their GPU be on it if it is ready? Two questions I really need to know the answer to before, if we know how competitive it will be. Maybe they can get a 14 nanometer or whatever card out, and it's just as competitive as the 7 nanometer cards that AMD and NVIDIA will have out at that time. Who knows? But these are all questions that are up in my head that I really want to know the answers to. And of course, we'll know those answers in time, and no one at Intel is telling me anything. So I'm pretty sure that they want to keep that tight to the vest so that nobody from AMD or NVIDIA is hearing what they're actually working on. Mining side of it, I also have a concern about mining overall. And if that has an uptick overall for gamers, that's not going to be good. And I have no reason to believe that it won't have an uptick, or it may or may not, right? We don't know. I can't predict the future. If I could, I'd be talking about something else, right? But if mining comes back, that's going to be putting a lot of pressure on the supply of graphics cards. If it's a graphics card specific mining, that's taking and making a lot of increasing in value, right? Cryptocurrency, there's a whole bunch of them. Some use GPUs, some use CPUs, some use ASICs. Some can't, there's certain ones that don't want to be on ASICs, period, and they're trying to prevent that. So there's a lot out there, but that's something I have a concern of. Now, jumping into the next topic I have is VR and how that's going to be playing out in the GPU side of things. I think that if VR is going to take off and kind of push graphics to the next level, and with people playing with headsets and playing games, that single cable needs to be on every single graphics card. That VR cable or VR port, as they're calling it, needs to be on all graphics cards. And people need to start, the headset makers need to be implementing that and using that for all the power delivery, data, etc. And then from there, what I think that needs to make VR even take is prices need to come down, need to be more accessible to a lot more people. And I think VR has an opportunity then to take off. I love to get a VR. Price is one thing that is inhibiting me from going out and getting it. Granted, space was the other thing before. Now I have space. So that's one thing that, with my computer, I'd love to be able to try now that I have a little bit more space since I'm in a house to be able to do that. Ray tracing. Now let's jump into this ray tracing stuff. Now I think ray tracing is going to be great. Just being able to trace the light, how it appears. Instead of, movies could take a day to render a frame with ray tracing. But now with the gaming, doing it slightly simplified, slightly assisted, I think, with the GPU, this has huge opportunities for it to be a visual appeal to many gamers out there and really increase the visual appeal to games. Now, right now we play in a lot of frames per second. I know people out there with that need to have that high frames per second probably don't want this right now. But if you're playing a game that's really 4K, high visuals, you add in ray tracing, this is a huge opportunity to kind of increase how amazing the game looks, how lifelike it looks, and be able to basically, I think NVIDIA personally is doing a pivot with their technology and really kind of increasing that quality of each frame that you're visually seeing as you're playing a game. And I'm actually excited for that. I think it's was good for NVIDIA to kind of put this out there, this technology, and then allow developers to kind of take and work at it. It's not going to be perfect right away, right? Developers are going to have a learning curve to get this implemented and kind of iron it out and work at it. It's just like every other new game technology, right? It always takes a little bit of time. And always the second iterations are always better than the first. It's just progression, right? As a developer myself, the first time you do something, you're always learning about it. The second time you do something, you can improve upon it. And as iterations go, it gets better and better. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the better gameplay that can maybe come from it, or a better visual side of the gameplay that can come with it. Because I play on a 4K screen, and I love the visuals, right? That's the great frames that are rendered with all the details. That's what I like. So this ray tracing stuff is appealing to me for that reason. And then game consoles. Now I know I focused a lot about PC gaming and games overall and the gaming side of things, but I want to talk a little bit about consoles because they're gaming devices too. Sony, Microsoft, who knows what they're going to go and go with right now. But let's say they come out with whatever graphics card it is in there, and it has ray tracing and some of the new super sampling and different sampling techniques and AI side of things to make better graphical features of that. Well, that's great. I'm actually excited for it because hopefully it'll push the PC side as well to have better graphics as well. One thing that Microsoft and Sony seem to do pretty well with their games is when there's a new console that comes out, they're pushing game developers to develop on that, and include their new technologies that are in those consoles. So like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, they're 4K boxes, right? They really want to play 4K games on there. Well, Sony put a lot of time and working with developers when the console came out and stuff. There was content that was going to come out with it, so that the old PS4 was supported and the PS4 Pro was supported. So you had that great visual enhancement coming to you, and you could adjust it, switch the screen sizes. So they worked a lot with developers. Same with Microsoft. You had the 4K HDR side of things, and that really works great, right? Even FreeSync now in certain TVs. So they work with their partners, work with the developers so that they can, show off that technology in there. And I'm hoping that, eventually that these consoles kind of match up and force a lot of the PC side of stuff as well to go forward in that sort of realm. So we get more ray tracing in, our games on the computer, and that more game developers then have that ability to develop across, if they do both console and PC, they can learn from each techniques and see which is better and hopefully improve the games for us gamers. So I'm really kind of excited about that. I also would like to see, just to mention a little side note, maybe some games they would take that same ability that consoles seemed, like Microsoft and Sony seem to push so much with the games, and say, hey, if you want to run our game at just amazing visuals, like very high, everything turned up to very high or ultra, here's the PC you need, right? We get the minimum, we get the recommended specs. Let's see when we want to play a game, just full out, what are those specs? If you want to be at the cutting edge, what are those specs? I love to see game developers kind of do that and really show off their games on what's just amazing, rather than being like, yeah, this is what you can do, this is what the game looks like, and we're like, well, what is all that? Like, what? Put the system together. What is it? Maybe AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, they throw some hardware at these game developers to really say, hey, what can you do with this machine? Okay, write that in a spec line or whatever, what that's capable of. That'd be kind of cool to see these AMD, Intel manufacturers kind of do, NVIDIA, to see how amazing a game could be. So that's some of my thoughts about this GPU landscape kind of going here, right? NVIDIA right now is top dog in gaming. I think it looks like that they're top dog in the AI HPC. AMD's kind of working hard at that AI HPC market. We got to see way more from them in the gaming side. Hopefully, the new leadership in there kind of straightens that out, gets us a new gaming graphics card every single year, and hopefully, it is a high performance to a low performance one every, or very close to a year or whatever, because they were talking about having a release every year. And then Intel, I really want to know what they're going to do, and kind of what processes they're going to use, and if they're going to be even competitive when they're releasing this card to the current gen NVIDIA and AMD when Intel in that year Intel releases it. So with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time, and let me know what your comments are about this topic as well. What do you think about the GPU landscape, and what are you waiting for? What are you hoping for is going to happen here in the next years and months, especially since 2018 was not the year that competition was sparked back in the GPU markets. So thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to help Graya Overload this channel grow. I'm really appreciative of that. Very thankful of it. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe.